Hi all. Today's video, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about who I am. I think it's important when someone's talking to you about spirituality that you understand the context in which they've come up with their ideas, from which they talk about their ideas. So I think I owe it to you, if you're going to follow this channel, to tell you a little bit about myself. So I grew up in Laramie, Wyoming, small town Wyoming, in the 1980s and 1990s. I graduated high school in 2001. It was difficult because I knew I was different in some way, and I just didn't know how. And it turns out I was different in a few ways. I didn't know transgender was an option. I wish I had. I wish at that point I could have started discovering who I was, but there wasn't much of a way to do that for me. I started kind of discovering my bisexuality in high school. I started dating a young man who was in the school. You know who you are if you're watching this. I doubt you are. But we both started dating, and right after we started dating, Matthew Shepard was killed in Laramie. Matthew Shepard's death really changed a lot for me. I kind of shut down my adolescence at that point. It became very scary to be bisexual for me, and certainly scary to be out. So I went right back in the closet, where I stayed until I was 35 years old. Less with the bisexuality. I actually told a few folks about that in college. I wasn't out and open to everyone, but I told a few folks. But as trans, I didn't come out till I was 35 years old. So it took me a very long time, and it took me a long time to process what happened there. All of a sudden, my hometown was terrifying. It didn't feel safe to be myself. And I can't even tell you what that means. I know several queer survivors of Laramie during that time period, and a lot of us have dealt with that. It's a heavy moment on us. I went to college at Dakota Wesleyan University, kind of traveled the world after that. I actually taught in Bahrain overseas. My college degree is in religion and philosophy. I doubled in theater. So I've worked in churches essentially my whole adult life. And then I went to seminary in 2010. And seminary was a great experience. I went out to Pacific School of Religion in Berkeley, California. Really open place, really accepting place. Lots of trans classmates, a lot of queer classmates. I learned a ton and spent a lot of time studying queer theology out there. And I was definitely an egg at that point. To my PSR classmates who dealt with the stupid questions I asked about gender as I was trying to get to know myself, thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for putting up with the stupid stuff I asked you, because I was just trying to understand who I was. While I was in seminary, that's when I got cancer. I got jaw cancer, and you can see how it left me. I have no jaw from there to there on my left side. That was quite the experience, because it was a quite aggressive cancer. I had surgery within 3 months of it being diagnosed, and I earnestly didn't know if I was going to survive or not. And that's a real tough place to be. And since I didn't know that, and since I was about to go in for a major surgery to have that done, you can see the tracheotomy scars and all that I still have from it. I had to go in knowing that there was a chance that I wouldn't wake up. It was a 17-hour surgery. And so I really came to peace, and I remember very distinctly laying on that operating room bed and thinking about those I cared about, asking myself the question, have I been true to myself? I can't say that's a universal group of questions, but I've been gifted in my life the knowledge of what I was thinking about on what could have been my deathbed. So I've spent the time since then trying to really get myself aligned with those values. After the cancer experience, after I did the radiation, spent a month in the hospital, had a feeding tube in for I think approximately 3 months, had my tracheotomy for about a month and a half. I recovered and I went back to seminary and I threw myself all the way into it to get done. And I did, and I graduated, and I'm really proud of that. But in doing so, I ignored all the trauma I was dealing with from the cancer surgery, going back to my gender experience as a kid. I ignored all of that. Remember, I was still not out at this point yet. I was still an egg. So as that PTSD started kicking in, as I started trying to deal with that trauma, it became really clear that things weren't okay. I was not doing all right. My anxiety and depression were out of control. I was having nightly nightmares, and it got so bad that I started having what are called non-epileptic seizures. Now, what those are they're my trauma response. My body, when it gets overwhelmed, it just shuts down. And so my trauma response looks like a seizure response. And that's a real hard thing. I still, even now, have 1 to 2 seizures a month. Sometimes it's as bad as 2 a week. Sometimes it's, it varies a little. But I'm still getting those seizures. So that's why I'm disabled. That's what I'm dealing with. In any case, in working my way through all that, I leaned back on my roots as my roots in my teenage years, in my punk rock music, in my spirituality, and I just really felt the sense that I needed to be true to myself, that my job on this planet was to wrestle with these questions and to let others know who are going through similar things that they're not alone, that it's okay to struggle, and to model what struggling might look like while working very hard to move forward while struggling. Within the last year, I actually have started reincorporating into my spiritual beliefs my ancestral Celtic background. So I consider myself a Christo-pagan now. And what that means is I walk a dual path. I walk the Christian path, and I hold to certain pagan Celtic spiritual beliefs. And very interested in Celtic Christianity because there's a lot of blending of those two things in there. But it was important to me to rediscover the ancestral background of my faith, and it's really inspired me and really helped me to move forward and feel confident in myself. And it feels like the dual path is really the religious walk that I've always wanted to and intended to have. So I guess that kind of brings us up to here. I'm trying to kind of get my spiritual direction business up and off the ground, which is a little difficult because with my disability, I got about 4 hours at a time that I could work before I got to lay down and rest. I've lost a lot of capability, and my health issues. Now, I'm healthier now probably than I've been in years because I've been really intentional about my health, but that still doesn't stop things from being limited. So I guess I want to close by saying this. The reason I make this video is so A, you know where I'm coming from, but B, I want those of you who are struggling out there, especially those who are really spiritual people, to know that it's okay for spiritual people to struggle, and that it doesn't mean that the divine has abandoned you when you struggle. Struggling is how we discover who we are. Struggling is how we gain the strength to help others, and that's what I can hope that I can do now. So that's why I've invited you guys on this journey. I hope a lot of you decide to join me on this. I'm so happy that I get a moment to talk with you, and I hope I get to know a lot of you going forward. Thanks for taking some time to get to know me. I hope I get to know you all later. Have a good day. Blessings and love.